Hi there, my fellow creators. Being a video guy myself, I use most of the laptops I am testing as mobile workstations for all of our video production and general content needs. And thankfully, the hardware needed to run the necessary applications requires a similar level of performance as the latest games. So gaming notebooks make for pretty awesome workstations. But of course, there are also real workstations, which are made for one thing and one thing only: getting stuff done. And as you can imagine, I was quite curious about what such laptops can bring to the table and how big the difference to a more consumer-oriented product really is, or if it's something I would even notice. I am aware that there are a ton of additional use cases for these kinds of notebooks, but since I'm a video guy, it's what I know and what I can talk about, so please keep that in mind. And with that out of the way, this silver beauty right here in front of me is the HP ZBook Fury, and it's a fitting name for the most powerful mobile workstation in HP's lineup. And I have to admit, I like this one a lot. So let's get into it. The spec sheet for this one looks very familiar to other laptops I reviewed in the past year, but there's one very obvious difference. This one sports a GPU you can only find in the professional sector. The RTX 3500 Ada is the workstation equivalent to something like the RTX 4070, but it sports 12 gigs of VRAM and runs with up to 105 watts in the Fury's pretty beefy chassis. In addition, you get a 14900HX, 64 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. On the visual side, you can feast your eyes on a 4K 120Hz IPS panel, which carries HP's Dream Color branding, and I'm very curious about how this one performs in our display measurements. But let's start with the exterior for now. The ZBook is a proper chunky boy, but it's surprisingly lightweight considering its size, and especially its performance this one should deliver under the hood. The Fury also looks quite classy for a workstation class laptop, and I would not mind having this one with me in meetings or when crunching through emails in the coffee shop during lunch break. You hardly get any flex, which is good news for the magnesium alloy chassis, and the hinges are also quite well adjusted. The port situation should hardly leave you wanting for more, with the power connector, a pair of USB-Cs, one being Thunderbolt 4, the other 3.2 Gen 2, a very welcome mini display port, HDMI 2.1, and a full-size SD card reader with unfortunately only average transfer rates on the left. On the opposite side, HP adds a pair of USB-A 3.2 Gen 1s, unfortunately just a gigabit Notebookcheck, the audio combo port, and a smart card reader for all you business folks out there. Receiving files wirelessly is speedy, but transmitting is a bit on the slower side compared to the competition. However, HP passes with flying colors when it comes to the 5-megapixel webcam, which the Fury inherited from its more consumer-oriented Spectre siblings. In the maintenance department, it becomes very apparent that we are not talking about consumer laptop here, and HP puts the figure chassis to very good use. You can access the internals completely toolless by just sliding this latch to its open position. And below you get access to a total of 4 NVMe slots and 4 SODIMMs, which pretty much doubles what you would usually get on your average high-end gaming laptop. So you can load up this puppy with a ton of storage and RAM, which is awesome for more advanced workflows or when you have to deal with a ton of files. And I would love to see this on more laptops, even in the consumer space. The keyboard is simply excellent. It's both comfortable and very satisfying to use, with enough travel distance and satisfying feedback to cover all of your text input needs. I also haven't used a laptop with physical buttons in a while, but they work quite well on the Fury, and the touchpad above also feels great and did not give us any headaches during our time with the ZBook. In the display department, we can keep it short, since the ZBook sports an excellent panel with high brightness, okayish brightness distribution, and contrast for an IPS, great color gamut coverage, and decent color reproduction. I would personally wish for pre-calibrated presets like sRGB or Rec 709 for example, but I know that they are quite niche, but they would fit the HP's professional target group quite well. Even the response times are very good, so you can enjoy the occasional game after work, but more about that in a bit. In the performance department, the 14900HX performs decent in the ZenBook. HP opted for slightly more constrained power levels compared to the Legion Pro 7 for example, so isolated CPU performance is quite a bit lower than what you could get theoretically from this particular chip. Compared to the workstation competition though, the Fury is sitting very pretty and should hardly leave you wanting for more pure CPU grunt. System performance measured with PCMark is comparable to similar configs on the consumer and workstation side, and subjectively the HP is a very snappy system. The Fury's drive also delivers very fast transfers, but has to throttle periodically during our torture tests, even though this should hardly be a problem during everyday use. So let's talk about the GPU and what the RTX 3500 can bring to the table. In our synthetics, the workstation's upper mid-range card is roughly comparable to the RTX 4070, at least with its 105 watts power target in the Fury. Last year's version, which we have tested with the top-of-the-line RTX 5000, will give you an idea of what to expect should you consider an upgrade, whereas the RTX 4080 gains a pretty significant lead on the consumer side. In Blender, we get a similar picture, showing the RTX 3500 being on par with the 4070. Still, you should definitely keep the added VRAM in mind here, which will give you a better experience in more advanced computing workflows. I also ran the Puget Bench Resolve benchmark to get an idea of what the ZBook can do in my particular field of work. Pure performance is very decent, and it sits again somewhere between 4070 and 4080 laptops. Resolve eats video memory for breakfast, so the additional headroom you have with the workstation GPU is definitely very welcome and makes editing our timelines quite a smooth experience. The ZBook might not be a gaming laptop, but it will definitely not disappoint. Once more, you will roughly get 4070 performance, but again with the added benefits of the additional VRAM. I just could not resist trying the new Indiana Jones game, which really struggles with the 4070's 8 gigs of video memory and barely manages to go above 60 FPS in Full HD. However, I was able to get smooth frame rates in QHD with DLSS and frame generation. You will have a hard time though to utilize the native resolution in most recent AAA games, but QHD and with the help of some upscaling you are in for a very good time for that afterwork virtual entertainment. The Fury name is quite a good fit when it comes to fan noise, and the ZBook is quite audible when you push it, but I would say it's not particularly over the top for the performance you're getting in return. But hear for yourself, as always, re-recorded some noise samples for you. Battery life is also not a real surprise. The Fury lasted almost 7 hours in our simulated Wi-Fi test, which is actually pretty good and on par with other laptops in this particular form factor. So how was my experience with a real and proper workstation? Actually, I'm quite impressed, even though I have to admit that the overall experience isn't, of course, that different from that of a higher-end gaming laptop. But the ZBook looks a lot cleaner, which I'm sure professionals prefer overall, and at the same time, HP managed to put together a laptop that is still nice to look at without being too boring or too corporate. Maintenance options are simply awesome, allowing for a ton of easy storage and memory upgrades. The display is also pretty good, even though I would prefer more accurate factory calibration and more customization with additional presets for more advanced control for color-critical workflows. Performance is also quite impressive, even though you will get the same or mostly even better results on the consumer side, where everything is optimized for peak performance. The ZBook, on the other hand, most likely favors endurance and reliability in the long run over the highest possible benchmark results. But please folks, let me know what you think and if you could imagine yourself opting for a workstation instead of a consumer performance machine. Sound off in the comments below. As always, thanks a ton for watching. Feel free to leave your like and sub on your way out. My name is Alex, you have been amazing and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.